The human soldier stood at the edge of the alien camp, his boots crunching on the dusty ground beneath him. His mission was simple: negotiate with the alien race that had been causing trouble in the galaxy. But as he looked around the camp, he knew this would not be an ordinary mission. The alien world was far more dangerous than any he had encountered before. He was waiting for the leader of the alien warriors, a fierce woman known throughout the galaxy for her strength and skill. Her name was Kayla, and her people valued strength. Above all else, they were known for their rigid warrior code, where showing weakness was considered a sign of dishonor. Yet the soldier wasn't afraid. He had been trained for moments like this. His name was Sam, a man who had seen countless battles and faced enemies that would have made most people tremble. Sam knew this would be the toughest challenge yet, but he wasn't going to back down. He had dealt with difficult situations before, and this one would be no different. The galaxy may have underestimated humanity, but Sam was confident in his skills and his people. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall and imposing figure. It was Kayla, the alien warrior woman. Her muscles were visible under the tight armor she wore, and her eyes glowed with an intensity that sent a shiver down Sam's spine. Her people had no use for diplomacy or kindness. They respected only power. And Sam, well, he knew how to command respect. Kayla's gaze met his, and she stepped forward, her voice low and commanding. "Kneel before me, human," she ordered, her tone cold and firm. The soldier was taken aback. He had heard stories about Kayla's strength, but he had never expected her to be so imposing. The warriors in the camp around them stood still, watching the scene unfold. They knew what was at stake. Sam knelt. It would show that he accepted Kayla's power over him. But Sam didn't believe in submission. Sam stood tall, refusing to bow his head. His eyes locked with Kayla's, and without hesitation, he smiled. "No," he said simply, his voice steady and calm. There was a moment of silence. Kayla's expression didn't change, but the tension in the air thickened. The other warriors in the camp murmured to each other, unsure of what to make of the human's response. No one had ever dared to refuse Kayla like that. She was the strongest warrior in her clan, a symbol of power. And yet this human dared to defy her. Kayla's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a slight smile. "You have courage, human. I will give you that. But courage alone will not save you here." Sam didn't flinch. He had seen far worse than a defiant alien warrior. "I didn't come here to kneel," he said. "I came here to talk." Kayla stepped closer, her presence overpowering. Sam stood his ground, had no intention of backing down, but he also knew that this was only the beginning of the battle, not for survival, but for respect. "Very well," Kayla said, her voice colder now. "You will regret this, human. But since you seem so confident, I will give you a chance. If you think you are worthy, prove it." With that, Kayla raised her hand, signaling for her warriors to step back. The crowd parted, and Sam realized what was about to happen. She wasn't just going to let this go. She was challenging him. Kayla's challenge wasn't one of words. It was one of action. She drew a long, gleaming blade from her side, the blade reflecting the harsh light of the alien sun. The weapon was designed for close combat, and from the look in her eyes, Sam knew she had no intention of holding back. Sam, too, reached for his weapon, a standard-issue combat knife, sharp and light. He wasn't as well-armed as Kayla, but he had years of experience, and he knew how to use every advantage. His eyes never left hers as he prepared himself. This wasn't just about proving himself. This was about surviving. "Prepare yourself," Kayla warned, taking a ready stance, the blade held high. Sam didn't hesitate. He charged forward, his body moving with purpose, eyes locked on Kayla's every movement. He wasn't just fighting for his life, he was fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. If he showed weakness now, all the work humanity had done to build its reputation would fall apart. He couldn't let that happen. The two warriors collided in a flurry of movement. Sam ducked as Kayla swung her blade at his head, narrowly avoiding the strike. He twisted around her, landing a quick blow to her shoulder with his knife, but it barely made a dent. Kayla's armor was tough. She was faster than Sam had anticipated. Kayla responded with a swift kick that sent Sam stumbling backward. The force of the blow was enough to knock him off balance, but he managed to recover quickly. The battle raged on, neither of them giving an inch. Sam could feel the heat of the fight building inside him, but he kept his focus. Kayla was strong, faster, and her blade was a deadly weapon. But Sam had something she didn't: adaptability. As the fight wore on, he could tell Kayla was starting to underestimate him. The more she tried to predict his movements, the more she began to realize that Sam wasn't like the others. He didn't follow the same rules, and that made him unpredictable. Kayla grinned. "You're a worthy opponent." "Human," she admitted, her voice filled with grudging respect. But she was. Sam stood, breathing heavily. His eyes locked with Kayla's. The fight had already tested his limits, but he wasn't about to back down. Kayla's strength and skill were undeniable, but Sam had faced tougher challenges before. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about showing the alien warrior that humans could stand their ground. Kayla's grin faded, placed by a more serious expression. She took a step back, her eyes studying Sam as if assessing his next move. The warriors around them were silent, watching the duel with a mix of surprise and curiosity. They had never seen anyone challenge their leader like this, and they were beginning to wonder if the human could actually win. "You fight well," Kayla said, her voice deep and calm. "But you are still human. Your strength has limits. People know no such weakness." Sam wiped the sweat from his forehead and stood taller, not letting her words get to him. "I'm not afraid of your strength," he replied. "I came here to talk, not to kneel." Kayla's eyes narrowed, and for a moment it seemed like she was going to continue the fight. But then she lowered her blade slightly, her expression softening just a bit. "You are different from the others," she said, almost to herself. "Most humans would have obeyed. But you, you stand firm." Sam didn't respond immediately, unsure of where this conversation was headed. Kayla was a warrior, one of the strongest in her entire species. Her people valued nothing but combat and power. To her, showing weakness was the greatest sin. And yet here she was, talking to him like he was an equal. "If you want to talk, let's talk," Sam said, lowering his weapon slightly. "But if you want to fight again, I'm ready for that too." Kayla took a long moment to consider his words. Her gaze shifted from Sam to the warriors around her, then back to him. There was no fear in her eyes, but there was something else. Curiosity. She had seen many warriors, many challenges, but never had she met someone who stood up to her the way Sam did. Most had either bowed to her strength or been crushed under it. But this human, it was different. "Very well," she said after a pause, sheathing her blade. "You are brave, human. I respect that. But respect is not enough to survive in my world. You must prove yourself, or you will become nothing more than another victim of my people." Sam didn't flinch. He understood the message. Kayla wasn't offering him friendship. She was offering him a chance to prove himself. He was about to speak when a loud voice cut through the silence. "Enough." A new figure entered the clearing, a tall alien with an air of authority. Sam instantly recognized him as one of Kayla's high-ranking commanders. The alien's presence seemed to command respect, and the warriors around them straightened. Acknowledging his position, Kayla turned toward the new arrival, her posture changing slightly. Sam noticed the difference in how the two of them interacted. There was a subtle shift in Kayla's demeanor, a brief moment of hesitation, as if she respected the commander but wasn't afraid of him. The commander approached, his eyes moving from Kayla to Sam, studying the human with a calculating gaze. "What is this?" he asked, his voice steady. "It is a challenge," Kayla replied, her voice calm but firm. "This human has refused to kneel before me. I was about to teach him what it means to stand before a true warrior." The commander's eyes flicked. To Sam, he raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by the human's audacity. "You think you can defeat Kayla?" Sam shook his head. "I don't need to defeat her. I just need to show that I'm not afraid. I'm here to negotiate, not to fight." "For my life?" The commander chuckled, a sound that seemed both mocking and impressed. "Negotiation? You think you can negotiate with a warrior who commands respect through strength alone? You have much to learn, human? Kella's gaze softened as she looked at Sam, but her pride was clear. You may not have defeated me, but you have shown me something different. Something I don't often see. She paused before speaking again. Perhaps it is not weakness to admit that there is more to strength than just power. Sam didn't know what to say to that. He'd expected Kayla to see him as an enemy, not an equal. The alien woman had been raised to believe that the strongest survived, that only those who could crush their opponents deserved respect.
Ow.
But now, after their brief but intense confrontation, he wondered if there was a chance for more. Maybe, just maybe, they could find common ground. Kayla turned to the commander, her voice more serious now. I believe this human is worthy of a chance. I will not kill him as I would any other enemy, but I will test him further. The commander gave a nod of approval. Very well. If you believe he is worthy, then let him prove it. But do not think for one moment that we will go easy on him. Kella's warriors murmured among themselves, clearly uncertain about what would happen next. Some were impressed by Sam's bravery, while others were still skeptical. Kella's reputation as a fierce leader was hard to overlook. Many had followed her because they believed in her strength. And now this human had dared to defy her. Sam stood still, taking in everything around him. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear. He wasn't going to back down. The fate of humanity might depend on this very moment. And if he could prove to Kayla that humanity was more than just a force to be reckoned with, maybe, just maybe, he could change the course of their destiny. Then what happens now? Sam asked, his voice steady. He was ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. Kayla smiled slightly. Now you prove that you can stand beside me, human. And together, we will see what your kind is truly capable. The sun was setting over the alien planet, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Sam stood beside Kayla, watching as the last light of day disappeared behind the jagged mountains in the distance. The air was cool now, but the tension between them was far from fading. The challenge had been set, but now it seemed they were moving into uncharted territory. Tell me, human, Kayla said suddenly, breaking the silence. What makes you think you can face me like this? You stand before me as though your strength can equal mine. Sam glanced at her, still trying to understand the complexities of her alien mindset. Kayla had grown up in a world where power and strength were the only measures of a person's worth. Yet here she was, asking him a question that hinted at something deeper than simple rivalry. I don't need to match your strength, Sam said, his voice calm. I just need to show you that I can stand with you. Kayla turned to him, her eyes narrowing slightly. Stand with me? You think you are worthy to stand beside me, you a human? Sam nodded slowly, sensing the challenge in her tone. He had to prove something more than just his combat skills. This was about understanding each other, about showing Kayla that humanity wasn't just a species to be defeated, but one that could stand toe-to-toe with any other. You want me to kneel? But I will never bow to anyone, Sam said. Don't care who you are or what power you wield. I'm not afraid. Kayla studied him for a moment, clearly trying to measure the sincerity of his words. She had seen warriors fall before her many times, their arrogance leading to their defeat. But Sam, despite his human limitations, had something others did not. Something she had not expected. You are foolish, Kayla said, her voice cold. But you are also ... different. I have never met a human like you before. Most of your kind bow their heads in fear. But you refuse. I'm not afraid of you, Sam said, his voice steady. Not here to fight you. I'm here to show you that we are more than just weak creatures. We have our strengths, just like you do. Kella's eyes softened for the briefest of moments, but her pride remained unshaken. You speak of strength as if it's something we can share, but we are different, human. Our strength comes from the blood of our ancestors, the warriors, who fought for everything we have. You. You come from a weak race, a race that has only recently learned to survive. Sam didn't flinch at her words. He had heard similar insults before. Humanity had always been underestimated by those who didn't understand their true nature. But Sam knew that this was a chance to change that, to show Kayla that humans were far from weak. "I'm not asking for your respect," Sam replied. "I'm asking for a chance. Chance to prove that we are capable of more than just surviving. We can thrive, just like you. And maybe, together, we can achieve something greater." Kayla looked at him in silence for a moment, then slowly turned and began walking away. Sam followed, unsure of what was going to happen next. Kayla didn't speak again, but the message was clear. She had something to show him. Something that would prove whether or not his words had any weight. They walked for what felt like hours, through the alien landscape until they reached a massive stone structure. It was unlike anything Sam had seen before, built into the side of a mountain with strange carvings along its walls. The air here felt different, charged with something ancient. Sam could sense that this place held meaning for Kayla, something personal. "This is where we test the worth of those who claim they can stand beside us," Kayla said, her voice softer now. "The trial of the fallen?" Sam raised an eyebrow. "Trial? What kind of trial?" Kayla turned to him, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "This is where I prove if your words are true. If you can survive the trial, you will earn my respect. But if you fail, you will learn why humans like you should never challenge my people." Sam wasn't sure what to expect, but he wasn't about to back down now. Whatever this trial was, he would face it head on. He had to, for humanity. For the chance to show Kayla and her people that humans had their own brand of strength. Without another word, Kayla motioned for Sam to follow her into the darkened structure. Inside, the air was cooler, and the ground beneath their feet was smooth stone. The walls were lined with strange symbols and ancient carvings that Sam couldn't understand. But he could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. "This is where our greatest warriors come to test their strength," Kayla explained, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "Here they fight against the trials of our ancestors. They must survive the tests, or they are deemed unworthy." Sam's heart began to race. "What kind of tests?" Kayla smiled, a cruel edge to her expression. "You will see soon enough. But be warned, human. It's no game. It is a fight for your very survival." As they walked deeper into the structure, Sam could feel the tension building. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew that this trial would be unlike anything he had ever faced before. Kayla led him into a large chamber, its floor covered in thick red sand. At the center stood a tall stone pillar, surrounded by strange markings. "This is the beginning of your trial," Kayla said. "Survive this, and you will have earned your place beside me." Sam glanced at the stone pillar and then back at Kayla, steeling himself for what was to come. Whatever this trial was, he wouldn't back down. It was his only chance to prove that humanity was more than just a race of survivors. He would show Kayla and her people that humanity had the strength to stand tall. As the ground rumbled beneath his feet, Sam braced himself. The trial was The air was thick with tension as Sam stood in the center of the ancient trial chamber. The stone pillar before him seemed to pulse with energy, the strange markings on the walls glowing faintly in the dim light. Kayla stood a few steps behind him, her eyes cold and unreadable as she watched him carefully. The trial was about to begin, and Sam knew there was no turning back now. He could feel the ground beneath him shifting. The chamber seemed to come alive, the air humming with the presence of something powerful, something ancient. Sam's heart pounded in his chest, but he steadied his breath. He had faced countless challenges in his life, but this was something different. This wasn't just about proving himself. It was about survival. "Remember?" Human Kella's voice cut through the silence. "This is no simple fight. You must survive this trial to earn my respect. If you fail, you will not leave this place." Sam nodded, his eyes focused on the stone pillar ahead. He wasn't going to back down. This was his moment, his only chance to prove that humanity was more than just a race of survivors. They were warriors in their own right, capable of standing alongside anyone. Suddenly the ground trembled beneath his feet, and the chamber seemed to shake. The air grew heavy, and a deep rumbling sound filled the space. Sam's eyes darted around, trying to understand what was happening. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, and the floor beneath him shifted once again. Then, with a sudden crash, the stone pillar cracked down the middle, revealing a hidden passage that led into the darkness below. "Step forward," Kayla said, her voice cold and commanding. "The trial begins now." Sam didn't hesitate. He stepped forward into the dark passage, his senses heightened. The air was cool and damp, and the sound of his boots echoed off the walls as he moved deeper into the unknown. He could feel the weight of Kella's gaze on his back, but he didn't look back. This was his test, not hers. As he moved further into the passage, he began to notice strange markings etched into the walls, glowing softly in the dark. The path was narrow, and the walls seemed to close in around him, making him feel trapped. But he kept moving forward, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. After what felt like hours of walking, Sam finally emerged into a massive, underground cavern. The space was vast, with a high ceiling that disappeared into the darkness above. The walls were lined with more glowing symbols, and the floor was covered in thick red sand. At the center of the cavern stood a giant stone statue, a figure of an alien warrior. Towering over him, Sam stopped, his breath caught in his throat. This was no ordinary trial. This was a test of both mind and body. He had no idea what was coming next. The ground trembled again, and suddenly, the statue began to move. It shifted and groaned as if awakening from a long slumber. Sam's heart raced. The figure was massive, easily twice the size of Kayla. It had long, powerful limbs and a face that was both intimidating and ancient. Its eyes glowed with a fierce light, and as it turned toward Sam, he could feel its presence like a weight pressing down on him. "This is your opponent," Kella's voice echoed from above, "the guardian of the trial. You must defeat it if you want to survive." Sam's eyes locked onto the massive statue, his mind racing. He had no idea how he was supposed to defeat something like that. The guardian was a creature of pure strength, far beyond anything Sam had ever faced before. But he couldn't back down. Not now. The guardian raised its arms and swung down toward him with a deafening roar. Sam barely had time to react, rolling out of the way just in time. The ground shook as the guardian's fist slammed into the floor, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. Sam sprang to his feet, his mind working quickly. He had to think fast. There was no way he could overpower this creature with sheer strength alone. He darted toward the guardian's legs, his knife drawn, hoping to find some weak point in its armor. The stone figure was incredibly strong, but it wasn't perfect. Sam's training had taught him to look for weaknesses, and this creature had plenty. He dove under the guardian's massive limbs, narrowly avoiding another crushing blow. Kella's voice rang out again. "You cannot defeat it by running. You must face it head on. Show it your strength." Sam grit his teeth. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. But deep down, he knew she was right. This wasn't just about dodging the blows. It was about standing firm, facing the enemy directly. He had to confront this trial on his own terms. With renewed determination, Sam ran toward the guardian's chest, aiming for a crack in its stone armor. The creature swung its massive arm toward him, but Sam was faster this time. He ducked and rolled, using the momentum to close the distance. As the guardian's arm swept by, Sam leaped onto its arm and climbed up its enormous stone form. Kella's eyes widened in surprise as she watched Sam take the fight to the guardian. She had never seen a human fight like this before. The determination in his eyes was something she had not expected. Perhaps this human had more to offer than she had realized. Sam reached the guardian's head, his knife in hand. He plunged the blade into a crack in the stone, hoping to disable the creature. The guardian howled in pain, stumbling back. Sam didn't wait for it to recover. He grabbed onto a nearby stone ledge and jumped, landing on the creature's back. With one final push, he drove the blade deep into the stone. The guardian let out a final roar before it collapsed, its body crumbling to the ground in a heap of broken stone and dust. Sam stood there, panting, covered in dust and sweat, but he had done it. He had defeated the guardian. Kella's voice echoed through the cavern once more. You have passed the trial, human. You are stronger than I thought. Sam wiped his brow, his chest heaving with exertion. I didn't come here to prove that I'm strong, he said. I came here to show that I'm worthy of standing beside you. Kayla looked at him, her expression unreadable. But for the first time, there was a flicker of something in her eyes. The dust from the trial settled around Sam, and the once intimidating cavern now seemed quiet, almost peaceful. The massive stone guardian lay in pieces at his feet, its body crumbled into rubble. Sam stood there, his breath heavy and shallow. But his body was alive with the rush of adrenaline. He had done it. He had faced the impossible and survived. Kella's footsteps echoed through the chamber as she descended from the ledge. Her eyes fixed on him. Her gaze was intense, as though she was searching for something in Sam, something beyond the fight. Something that wasn't just about strength. You did it, Kayla said, her voice steady, but with a hint of awe. You defeated the Guardian. No human has ever done that before. Sam wiped the sweat from his forehead, still catching his breath. I didn't do it alone, he said, looking at the destroyed Guardian. It's not just about brute strength. It's about being resourceful, about using what you have and never backing down. Kayla nodded, her expression thoughtful. Your words have meaning, she said slowly. You don't just fight for the sake of fighting. There is more to you than that. The words hung in the air between them. Sam had known that he was different, that humanity was different. They didn't always rely on raw power or force. They relied on their minds, their hearts, and their ability to adapt. And for the first time, Kayla seemed to understand that. She, who had grown up in a world where strength alone defined one's worth, was beginning to see beyond that. The sound of the stone pillar cracking echoed in the chamber as it began to rise from the ground. It was as if the trial had been a test not only for Sam, but for Kayla as well. As the pillar ascended, a hidden path behind it became visible, a path that led further into the depths of the cavern. Follow me, Kayla said, her voice more serious. Now, she turned and walked toward the path, her footsteps steady and confident. Sam followed without hesitation, his mind racing. What was beyond this path? What was Kayla planning? The path twisted and turned, winding through the dark tunnels beneath the planet's surface. The air was cooler here, and the silence felt heavier. As though the cavern was holding its breath, Sam could feel the weight of Kella's presence beside him, but this time it was different. She was no longer the cold, distant warrior who only respected strength. She was someone who had begun to see the value in teamwork, in partnership. After a few more minutes of walking, they emerged into a large, circular chamber. At its center was a pool of glowing liquid, casting an eerie light across the walls. The chamber felt ancient, as though it had been untouched for centuries. In the center of the pool, there was an altar made of smooth, black stone. Sam looked around, confused. What is this place? Kella's voice was soft as she answered. This is the heart of the warriors. It is where we come to find clarity, to reflect on our battles and our choices. It is where I came when I was struggling with my own doubts. I did not want to be like my ancestors, fighting for the sake of fighting. I wanted to find a new path, Sam glanced at her, seeing a vulnerability in her eyes that he hadn't noticed before. For the first time, Kayla wasn't just a warrior. She was a person, struggling with her own fears and doubts. You wanted to find a new path? Sam asked, his voice low. Kayla nodded. I was raised to believe that strength alone would determine my worth, but I've realized that strength is not just in battle. It's in the choices we make, the people we trust, and the bonds we form. I see that in you, Sam. You fight not for yourself, but for something bigger. For your people, and that is strength. Sam stood in silence, absorbing her words. He had never expected Kayla to say something like that. He thought she would always see him as weak, as just another human. But now he understood that her views were changing, that she was beginning to see him not as an enemy to be defeated, but as an equal, someone who could stand beside her. Kayla stepped closer to the altar and reached out to touch the glowing liquid. I used to think that strength meant never showing weakness. But now I know that it takes even more strength to admit when you need help, when you need someone by your side. Sam took a step forward, his voice steady. I'm glad you see that. Because you're not alone anymore, Kayla. We can do this together. I'm here for you, for your people, for all of us. Kayla turned to face him, her eyes locking with his. There was no longer any trace of the cold, distant warrior she had been. Instead, there was a person who had faced her fears, her doubts, and had come out stronger because of them. You're right, she said softly. Maybe it is time for a change, for both of us. Sam nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He had known from the start that humanity had something to offer the galaxy. Now, he was starting to see that the bond between him and Kayla could be the key to something greater. They stood together in the chamber, looking at the pool of glowing liquid. Sam knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. There would be challenges ahead, but for the first time, he felt hopeful. With Kayla at his side, anything was possible. The bond between them had been forged in the heat of battle, but it was now growing into something deeper. A partnership built on trust, respect, and the understanding that strength came in many forms, not just in the ability to fight, but in the ability to stand together. As they stood in the heart of the warriors, the future seemed brighter then. Ever together, they would face whatever came next, and Sam knew that they would succeed, not because of their individual strength, but because of the strength they found. The stars above glimmered like scattered diamonds, their cold light falling softly onto the alien landscape. Sam stood next to Kayla, gazing up at the sky. The journey they had started seemed to stretch far ahead of them, but for the first time, Sam felt like they were on the right path. It had taken everything they had been through, the trials, the battles, the hard moments of doubt, to get to this point. But now, there was something different in the air, something hopeful. Kayla stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the stars. For the first time, Sam saw the calmness in her. She no longer wore the harsh mask of a warrior who saw only strength in others. Now she was more than just a fighter. Was a leader, someone who could see beyond the battlefield, someone who understood that strength could come from unity. What's next? Sam asked, his voice steady, but full of curiosity. He knew the journey wasn't over. There was still much more to be done, but now they both understood that they didn't have to face it alone. They had each other. Kayla turned her gaze to him, a slight smile appearing on her face. What do you think? She asked, her tone gentle. The path ahead is ours to choose. We've fought for what we believe in. Now, we can build something better. Sam's mind raced as he considered her. Words. When he had first arrived on this planet, he had thought it was all about survival, about fighting for his life. But now he saw that survival was only part of the story. They had a chance to change the future, not just for themselves, but for both their species. I think we can do more than just survive, Sam said. We can create a future where we're not fighting each other, a future where we stand together. Kayla's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, she seemed to look right through him. You've always believed that, haven't you? She said quietly. Even when everyone else doubted you, you've always seen the potential for something more. Sam nodded. I don't believe in fighting for the sake of fighting. It's never been about that for me. I've always believed that we can be more than just the battles we fight. Kayla was silent for a moment, and then she spoke, her voice stronger than ever. You were right all along, Sam. It's not about who is stronger or who can defeat. It's about building something together. It's about finding strength in our unity, not our differences. The words echoed in Sam's mind as he thought about everything they had been through. The challenges they had faced, the moments when they thought they couldn't go on, the moments when they had to fight for each other, they had all led to this. Now they had a chance to create a future that was different from the one they had been raised to believe in. They had walked through the trials, faced the Guardian, and fought together as allies. And in doing so, they had formed a bond stronger than anything either of them had known before. It wasn't about what either of them could do alone. It was about what they could do together. You've changed, Kayla said softly, her eyes meeting his. I can see it in you. And I've changed too. We're not the same people we were when we first met. But maybe that's a good thing. Sam smiled. Maybe it's exactly what we both needed. There was a long pause, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The stars above twinkled in the night sky, and the silence felt peaceful, almost sacred. They had come so far, and yet they knew there was still more to be done. What happens now? Sam asked after a moment. Kayla turned to him, her eyes filled with a new kind of fire. Now we go back. Back to my people. Back to your people. We show them that there's a better way. We show them that we can stand together, not as enemies, but as allies. Sam's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected it to happen so soon, but Kayla's words filled him with a new sense of purpose. This wasn't just about proving that humanity could survive. It was about proving that humans and aliens could work together, that they could build a future where peace wasn't just a dream, but a reality. Are you ready? Kayla asked, her voice steady but full of determination. Sam looked at her, seeing the strength in her eyes. For the first time, he saw not just the warrior, but the leader she had become. The woman who had once seen only strength in the battles she fought was now seeing the strength in unity, in trust, in working together for a common goal. I'm ready, Sam said firmly. Let's show them what we can do, Kayla smiled, her eyes gleaming with the promise of a future neither of them had dared to hope for before. Then let's begin. They turned and walked back toward the settlement, side by side. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and obstacles, but now they faced it together. They knew that the journey wouldn't be easy, that they would face resistance from both their people. But they also knew that the future they wanted was worth fighting for. The world they had once known. The world of war and separation was fading into the past. And in its place, a new world was beginning to take shape. A world where humans and aliens could stand together as equals, not as enemies. As they walked, Sam couldn't help but feel a deep sense of hope. He had come to this alien planet unsure of what he would find, but now he knew that humanity had a place in the galaxy. And with Kayla by his side, they could make that place one of peace, unity, and strength. And in the end, that was